Hi everybody, it's Danny Bader and it is Tuesday afternoon, the 31st, the last day of March, and I wanted to just spend a few minutes with you as I'm starting to just share some insight with you, and it may land for you and you may think I'm nuts, but that's okay, either way is fine. I kind of have to do one of those warnings. You know when you used to watch TV and then it would go beep? This is a public service announcement and warning you of whatever. So I'm just going to do one right now. Ready? Beep! Danny will mention God and he will mention Jesus in the following Facebook Live. Beep! So, however that makes you feel, you can drop off right now or you can hang around. But one of the things I wanted to focus on for this Facebook Live is the power of our human spirit. And I think the need more than any time right now in recent history is for all of us to pay attention to our own human spirit. We all have it. And this Facebook Live is dedicated to my ladies up at Westover. And that would be my mom and Mrs. Darrow and Mrs. Powell. So if you're watching, I love you very much, ladies. They are all very, very young in their 80s up there. And so here's the thing about the human spirit. Some people would call it inner wisdom. Some people call it inner consciousness, the universe, whatever you might want to call it. You know, I just simply call it spirit. And the way that I define it is that energy inside of us that is connected to something bigger. So because we're human, right, and there's that spirit inside of us that we connect to something bigger. Now, we frame that belief a lot of times then around religion. So I think spirituality is that. You know, we have that sense, 50% of the people say they believe in God, yes? Got it. The other 50 don't. It's just that about 30 to 40% of the other 50 don't call it God. They have another relationship to this and this thing bigger. And I think if you, if you are a Christian and you follow the teachings of Jesus, you saw that he was very open to that when the apostles would come and say, hey, they're not with us or whatever. And he said, whoever's not against us is kind of with us, right? There's many paths to this. So for me, I know the human spirit is very, very real because what I write about, and many of you have heard me speak, you know that I had the accident, and a lot of my message is based on that. How could it not be? Where me and my good friend Bruce passed away due to electric, and I came back that day. And what I absolutely know happened is I was there, 28 years of age, 8,000 volts of electricity went in my body. And so I was there in Earth as a human being, and then I wasn't anymore. And then I was again. So as I processed this, and I kind of knew it then, it just took me a little while to kind of really process it. Our brain, our heart, our lungs absolutely needed to kind of make this body go. But what's critical is that energy. The human spirit, I'll call it the soul. You don't put your soul on life support, right? Our lungs and all these people that are suffering now that we're praying for with the ventilators, and the cardiac bypass machines. Think about how we can keep those three other organs kind of operational. And I'm not a scientist by any stretch or a doctor. But you see what I'm saying? When that energy is ready to leave you, that's it. That's it. But it's a tremendous energy to pay attention to. But now here's the thing I think that happens is our world has gotten so busy that with technology and work and material things and everything else, and they're not bad or good, they just are. My belief, and see how it lands for you, is they kind of layer over the human spirit, and we shift from really connecting with who we are. See, our human spirit, our energy is here in this world, but it's not of this world. It's in this world, but it's not of this world. So if you think back a lot of the great stories of resilience in the human spirit, a lot of them took place hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And some that come to mind for me, Anne Frank, right? So she's up in the attic hiding from Nazi Germany for 761 days. And if you read anything about her, she had pretty good resilience and a pretty good spirit there and did a lot to serve and help other people. Sir Ernest Shackleton was an explorer. In 1914, he took a ship, 27 men and him, down to the South Pole and cold and everything else. The ship got trapped. Check this one out, the Endurance. I mean, just while you have some time, read some of these stories about these people and what they did and what they overcame. And trust me, we've got something in front of us now that we all have to overcome. Life as we knew it is not going to be how we know it. But I do believe a lot of us are going to move through this. The vast majority of us are going to move through it. But Sir Shackleton, Ernest Shackleton, he went down there and his ship got trapped in the ice and then it got crushed. And then finally, when they got to leads of open water, I mean, these guys were on ice and they didn't have, trust me, they didn't have like hand warmers and Gore-Tex and everything else. This is 1914. Meager food, clothing, shelter. You know, they ripped the boat apart and built little huts and things. So anyhow, Shackleton and his men finally get to open leads of water. And they jump in some lifeboats and they go on this crazy journey and they finally land on an island, but it's not near the shipping lanes. They're not going to get rescued, but they're on land for the first time in 497 days. So everybody's going, oh my God, April. We can't go out till April or May. Anne Frank's in a room for 761 days. Shackleton and his men are floating on a block of ice in real cold weather in 1914 for 400 and some days. So when you get away from the facts sometimes, we have to listen to them, but when you get back to the kind of sit with yourself and think about the resiliency and the energy of our human spirit connected to something bigger, I think you'll find some energy. So anyhow, Shackleton and a couple men then, they took off on a boat and they landed on another island where there was a whaling station. We're rescued. No, false victory, as Hollywood would have it. They're 26 miles from the whaling station, so him and two other guys with just a 50-foot piece of rope, you know, frozen, frostbit, no food, 497. They travel 26 miles, and they land there and they go back and rescue everybody, not a soul, not a human spirit lost. But here's the interesting thing. There was a team of explorers that went back and retraced Shackleton's 26 miles through the mountains, and they had ice picks and everything else and Gore-Tex. And they didn't do it as fast as Shackleton and his two men did it. So you see, I think the energy, the power in our human spirit grows stronger as it approaches tragedy and difficult times if you pay attention to it. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do. You know, those of you that, as I said, you know, if you follow Jesus or you know anything about him, and some people go, I'm not quite sure he was who he was. And I would just encourage you to take a look at this book, The Case for Christ. There's also a movie, and it's really interesting. Lee Strobel's the guy that wrote it. And listen, I'm not trying to convert you. Most of you know me, right? I mean, I show up, I offer you what I offer you, and that's it. I love you either way. But Lee Strobel was a Jewish reporter for the Chicago Tribune. And his wife started to get a little bit of faith. And he said, I'm going to go prove, right, a reporter, all facts, I'm going to go prove that Jesus was not who Jesus said he was. And it's a fascinating book because he goes in, he talks to medical examiners about all the things that he survived. He talks to geologists about the landscape back there. He talks to historians and all these kinds of things. He talked to people who studied the skies and the universe because it's written about things happening. And what happened is he said, I can't prove that this guy, he kind of was who he said he was. The story's true, and then he turned to be a follower. So it's pretty cool, The Case for Christ. And you know, if you think about when Jesus died, right, and his body stopped, his famous words were, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. He didn't say, hey, I'm giving you my heart, my lungs, my brain, or whatever that might have been. So, you know, there's something about the human spirit that I love. And that's kind of my purpose in life, is to stay connected to that, because when my spirit left and then my spirit came back, that was what kept me going. But there's a great quote, Galatians, and I have it written right here in the beginning of my journal that I sit down and write most mornings. And it says, but the fruit of the Spirit, think about this, think about what you need right now in your life. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So how many of you would say, yeah, I could use some love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Well, they're the fruits of the Spirit. So hopefully I gave you something trustfully. Remember the other day we moved from hope to trust. Trusting that I gave you something to consider over tonight and tomorrow. I'll just read for you from my third book, I Met Jesus for a Miller Lite. And people go, oh my gosh, it's Jesus. This guy's like preaching. And I say, well, it also says Miller Lite, and they don't go together, so relax. But my dear friend, the wonderful oblate priest, Father Conley, Michael, to many of us, he was a consultant on this book, and he helped me with some things. And I remember we were in the library at Salesianum High School, where many of you have had children go, or maybe you went yourself, because I would go down there, and he would help me with the dialogue as I was trying to say, all right, here's the characters that are struggling in life. And they're trying to make sense of their connection with something bigger. And, you know, this guy, Jay, who shows up in the book, is, I don't want to give too much away, but we were down in the library, Michael and I were just talking, and he said something, and I said, wait, stop right there, Michael. He said, what? I said, stop there, I got to get that. I got to get it. So this exchange came out of it. And we were talking about all the challenges with the church. You know the money and the suffering and the the evil acts of many people associated with the church. And I said to him, we're talking, and I was in character as Michael. So I said to Jay, Michael's the main character of the book and also my priest friend. So I said to him, I posed it, so they, all of us, they should come back to the church. I asked, feeling a little like a reporter wrapping up an interview. So they should come back to the church. Jay left that question sit for a moment, and he turned to me and spoke slowly. They should come back to the message. The rest will follow. They should come back to the message. The rest will follow. So I strongly encourage you, right? I'm not here to tell you anything, but just to support you as best I can and love you and share some of my thoughts. And I'm happy to see a lot of the thoughts that you share. But for tonight and for tomorrow, think about, create some quiet, because it's often then where the Spirit shows up, and just let it settle. You know, in the absence of sounds, you'll hear the most, you'll feel something. And think about, what is your relationship? And I do a whole piece on this in that online course. What is your relationship with something bigger? Something beyond us? What is your relationship with that? And then I want you to think to yourself, how would you describe the message of that source of God, energy, spirit, wisdom? What's the message of that? You know, I'm sure love is at the top of it, lead with love, but what's the message there? And then ask yourself, what do you need to do to come back to that message more? What do you need to do to come back to that message more and to live it? Because that's what we all need to do right now, myself included. So trust me, the human spirit is tremendously strong, and it's vital to life, and we need it now. So tap into yours, come back to the message, and live it. Stay healthy. I love you all.